My intervention is on water in Central Asia. As I was doing the write-up, I was thinking, why should a development banker from Oman or a development banker from Malaysia care about water in Central Asia? So I was preparing my presentation trying to formulate lessons that water finance and water management in Central Asia might carry to other regions, to other developing countries. Because half of developing countries face water deficit. Another half doesn't face water deficit, but you still face issues with financing irrigation, sanitation, and water supply in cities. That's everywhere, absolutely. So the challenges are, as a matter of fact, very, very similar. And water has been underinvested all over the world, in particular over the last decades. I'll skip the diagnostic. I'll just say that Central Asia faces water deficit, irrigation infrastructure is outdated, it's on average 50 years old, water supply networks face 80% deterioration, up to 40% of water is lost in canals. Nothing surprising, nothing that other regions wouldn't be aware of. Lesson number one. When we're talking water finance or water management, there are two sides of it, demand and supply. And the current lesson from Central Asia is perhaps that we, as financiers, as development bankers, should put much more effort into managing the demand side. Instead of expanding supply of water, it's much more useful and brings more value for money to finance efficient demand of water. What does that mean? Irrigation infrastructure. Irrigation is the greatest water gusher in the world. In Central Asia, irrigation is responsible for 92% of water consumption. 5% spent in cities, and another 3% is industry. Introducing digital water metering alone would save 12 to 15% annual water savings. Adopting precision irrigation technologies such as drip irrigation, sprinklers, laser leveling can save up to 20 to 30%, but that's costly. That costs from $700 to $2,000 per hectare. So we should always see how that plays out in terms of financial efficiency. But otherwise, putting money into managing demand brings much more value for money than simply expanding supply of water. Lesson number two is somewhat unusual, and you might disagree. I think that all developing countries around the world, or most of them, really want to develop their own industrial base. If a developing countries want to graduate one day from mid-income to high-income status, this country should develop its own industrial way. There's probably no other way around. And we should look for niches to develop our domestic industries everywhere we can find them. So we suggest for Central Asia the following. We're talking to national governments now. Look, you import $200 million of irrigation equipment yearly. With our forecast to double these imports up to $400 million by 2030. 98% imports. Let's develop our own domestic production of irrigation equipment. Irrigation equipment is not computers or semiconductors. Irrigation equipment is essentially pipelines plus quite basic machinery. So let's develop that based on the strength of our domestic market, and then as a second step, go and conquer export markets. That's our idea which we're now pushing in terms of cluster development, governmental subsidies, and first small companies in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And lesson number 3 would be the following. We in Central Asia and our bank has been a strong supporter of the so-called Regional Water and Energy Consortium. An idea was to create an independent international organization that would not only finance large hydrotechnical objects such as hydropower plants, but also manage interstate transfer of water and energy, so energy generation flows and water flows. This idea didn't pan out. Water is just a too sensitive issue. This issue is too sensitive for national sovereignty. Water is too sensitive for national sovereignty. The governments didn't go for it. And now we scale this idea down and say, let's create consortia for individual large-scale hydropower plants with a financial capacity of, say, $3 to $4 billion, which is needed to set up 2 gigawatts of hydropower plant. And this idea proves to be a much better going idea. The government say, okay, if we're talking about water energy consortium within national legislation, which would not manage water flows, but simply manage water finance, then why not? Last but not least, I have gone through the statistics of the multilateral development banks around the world. And I couldn't fail noticing that we finance a lot of connectivity projects. Over the last year, we've increased the share of renewable energy by far as part of our climate-related portfolio. But water remains hugely underinvested by multilateral development banks and public development banks. So my call would be to take water seriously, and in our strategic planning, try to find a proper place for water in the future. Thank you.